I'll go and see if there's anything left in my room. Has Mr. De Winter come in yet? Oh, he has. Would you connect me, please? Oh, I was looking for my book. I suppose I've packed it.
Well, come on. The car's waiting at the door.
I'd like to leave a forwarding address if they happen to find that book. Would you ring Mr. De Winter, please?
Yes, madame. 182. There isn't any answer.
Thank you.
Tell her to hurry up.
Yes, madame.
I was looking for Mr. De Winter.
Mr. De Winter just ordered breakfast in his room, mademoiselle.
Come in. Hello. What are you doing here? Anything the matter?
I've come to say goodbye. We're going away.
What on earth are you talking about?
It's true, we're going now, and I was afraid I wouldn't see you again.
Where's she taking you to?
New York. I don't want to go. I shall hate it. I shall be miserable.
I'll dress in here. I shan't be long. Which would you prefer? New York or Manderley?
Oh, please don't joke about it. Mrs. Van Hopper's waiting, and I'd better say goodbye now.
I repeat what I said. Either you go to America with Mrs. Van Hopper, or you come home to Manderley with me.
You mean you want a secretary or something?
I'm asking you to marry me, you little fool. Come in. Is that my food? I'm famished. I didn't have any breakfast. My suggestion didn't seem to go at all well. Sorry.
Oh, but you don't understand. It's that well, I'm not the sort of person men marry.
What on earth do you mean?
I don't belong in your sort of world, for one thing.
Well, what is my sort of world?
Oh, well, Manderley, you know what I mean.
Well, I'm the best judge of whether you belong there or not. Of course, if you don't love me, that's a different thing. Fine blow to my conceit, that's all.
Oh, I do love you. I love you most dreadfully. I've been crying all morning because I thought I'd never see you again.
Bless you for that. I'll remind you of this one day. You won't believe me. It's a pity you have to grow up. Well, now that's settled, you may pour me out some coffee. 2 lumps of sugar and some milk, please. Same with my tea, don't forget. Who's going to break the news to Mrs. Van Hopper? Shall you or shall I?
Oh, you tell her. She'll be so angry.
What's the number of her room?
Oh, she's not there. She's downstairs in the car.
Hello? Give me the date, please. Hello? You'll find Mrs. Van Hopper waiting outside in her car. Would you ask her with my compliments if she'd very kindly come up and see me in my room? Yes, in my room.
Mr. De Winter says, please, for you to come up to his room.
Mr. De Winter? Why, certainly.
This isn't at all your idea of a proposal, is it? It should be in a conservatory. You in a white frock with a red rose in your hand, and a violin playing in the distance, And I should be making violent love to you behind a palm tree. Poor darling. Never mind.
Oh, I don't mind.
Don't worry, don't worry. You won't have to say a word.
I'm so glad you called me, Mr. De Winter. I was making a hasty departure. It was so rude of me not to let you know. But a cable came this morning announcing that my daughter is engaged to be married.
That's rather a coincidence, Mrs. Van Hopper. I asked you up here in order to tell you of my engagement.
You don't mean it? Oh, how perfectly wonderful. How romantic. Who is the lucky lady?
I apologize for depriving you of your companion in this abrupt way. I do hope it won't inconvenience you too greatly.
When did all this happen?
Just now, Mrs. Van Hopper. Just a few minutes ago.
I simply can't believe it. And I suppose I ought to scold you for not having breathed a word of all of this to me. What am I thinking of? I shall give you both my congratulations and my blessings. I'm very happy for you both. When and where is the wedding to be?
Here, as soon as possible.
A whirlwind romance. Splendid. I could easily postpone my sailing for a week. This poor child has no mother, so I shall take responsibility for all the arrangements. Trousseau, reception, and everything, and I'll give the bride away. My luggage. Go down and tell the porter to take everything out of the car.
Just a minute. We're most grateful, Mrs. Van Hopper, but I think we'd both prefer to have it all as quiet as possible. And I couldn't possibly allow you to change your sailing plans.
Oh, but...
No. Dear, I'll go down and see that your luggage is brought back.
Thank you, Max.
So this is what's been happening during my illness. Tennis lessons, my foot. I suppose I have to hand it to you for a fast worker. How did you manage it? Still waters certainly run deep. Tell me, have you been doing anything you shouldn't?
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, well, never mind. I always did say that Englishmen have strange tastes. But you certainly have your work cut out as mistress of Manderley. To be perfectly frank with you, my dear, I can't see you doing it. You haven't the experience. You haven't the faintest idea of what it means to be a great lady. Of course, you know why he's marrying you, don't you? You haven't flattered yourself that he's in love with you. Fact is, that empty house got on his nerves to such an extent, he nearly went off his head. He just couldn't go on living alone.
You better leave, Mrs. Van Hopper. You'll miss your train.
Mrs. De Winter. Goodbye, my dear, and good luck.
I didn't expect the whole staff to be in attendance.
Miss Danvers' orders, sir.
Oh, sorry about this. Won't take long. This is Mrs. Danvers.
How do you do?
How do you do? I have everything in readiness for you.
That's very good of you. I didn't expect anything.
I think we'd like some tea, Frith.
Ready in the library, sir.
Come along, darling.
I think I'll go downstairs now.
That room in the west wing I was telling you about is there through that door. It's not used now. It's the most beautiful room in the house. The only one that looks down across the lawns to the sea. It was Mrs. De Winter's room.
Oh. I didn't know that there was anybody.
I know that dog. He comes for the house. He ain't yourn.
No, he's Mr. De Winter's dog. Have you anything I could tie him with?
Tell anyone you saw me in there, will you?
Don't you belong on the estate?
I wasn't doing nothing. I was just putting my shells away. She's gone in the sea, ain't she? She'll never come back no more.
No, she'll never come back. Come on, Jasper. What's the matter? Maxim! I'm sorry I was such a time, but I had to find a rope for Jasper.
Hurry up, Jasper, for heaven's sake.
Please wait for me. Maxim, what is it? You look so angry.
You knew I didn't want you to go there, but you deliberately went.
Why not? There was only a cottage down there and a strange man who was...
You didn't go into the cottage, did you?
Yes, the door.
Well, don't go there again, do you hear?
Why not?
Because I hate the place, and if you had my memories, you wouldn't go there or talk about it or even think about it.
What's the matter? Oh, I'm sorry, please.
We should have stayed away. We should never have come back to Manderley. Oh, what a fool I was.
I made you unhappy. Somehow I've hurt you. Oh, I can't bear to see you like this. Because I love you so much.
Do you? Do you? Ah, I've made you cry. Forgive me. I sometimes seem to fly off the handle for no reason at all. Don't I? Come. We'll go home and have some tea and forget all about it.
Yes, let's forget all about it.
Here, let me have Jasper.
I suppose that's why you married me. Because you knew I was dull and gauche and inexperienced, and there could never be any gossip about me.
Gossip? What do you mean?
I don't know. I just said it for something to say. Don't look at me like that. Maxim, what's the matter? What have I said?
Wasn't a very attractive thing to say, was it?
No. It was rude, hateful.
I wonder if I did a very selfish thing in marrying you.
How do you mean?
I'm not much of a companion to you, am I? You don't get much fun, do you? You ought to have married a boy. Someone of your own age.
Maxim, why do you say this? Of course we're companions.
Are we? I don't know. I'm very difficult to live with.
No, you're not difficult. You're easy, very easy. Our marriage is a success, isn't it? A great success? We're happy, aren't we? Terribly happy. If you don't think we are happy, it would be much better if you didn't pretend. I'll go away. Why don't you answer me?
How can I answer you when I don't know the answer myself? If you say we're happy, let's leave it at that. Happiness is something I know nothing about.
Do you wish anything, madam?
I didn't expect to see you, Mrs. Danvers. I noticed that the window wasn't closed, and I came up to see if I could fasten it.
Why did you say that? I closed it before I left the room. You opened it yourself, didn't you? You've always wanted to see this room, haven't you, madam? Why did you never ask me to show it to you? I was ready to show it to you every day. It's a lovely room, isn't it? Loveliest room you've ever seen. Everything is kept just as Mrs. De Winter liked it. Nothing has been altered since that last night. Come, I'll show you her dressing room. This is where I keep all her clothes. You would like to see them, wouldn't you? Feel this. It was a Christmas present from Mr. De Winter. He was always giving her expensive gifts the whole year round. I keep her underwear on this side. They were made specially for her by the nuns in the convent of St. Clair. I always used to wait up for her, no matter how late. Sometimes she and Mr. De Winter didn't come home until dawn. While she was undressing, she'd tell me about the party she'd been to. She knew everyone that mattered. Everyone loved her. When she'd finished her bath, she'd go into the bedroom and go over to the dressing table. Oh, you've moved her brush, haven't you? There, that's better. Just as she always laid it down. Come on, Danny. Hair drill, she would say. I'd stand behind her like this and brush away for 20 minutes at a time. And then she would say, "Good night, Danny," and step into her bed. I embroidered this case for her myself, and I keep it here always. Did you ever see anything so delicate? Look. You can see my hand through it. You wouldn't think she'd been gone so long, would you? Sometimes when I walk along the corridor, I fancy I hear her just behind me. That quick, light step. I couldn't mistake it anywhere. It's not only in this room. It's in all the rooms in the house. I can almost hear it now. Do you think the dead come back and watch the living?
No, I don't believe it.
Sometimes. I wonder if she doesn't come back here to Manderley. Watch you and Mr. De Winter together. You look tired. Why don't you stay here a while and rest? And listen to the sea. So soothing. Listen to it. Listen. Listen to the sea. You sent for me, madam.
Yes, Mrs. Danvers. I want you to get rid of all these things.
But these are Mrs. De Winter's things.
I am Mrs. De Winter now.
Very well, I'll give the instructions.
Just a moment, please. Mrs. Danvers, I intend to say nothing to Mr. De Winter about Mr. Favel's visit. In fact, I prefer to forget everything that happened this afternoon. Good evening, Mr. De Winter.
What the devil do you think you're doing?
But it's the picture, the one in the gallery. What is it? What have I done?
Go and take it off. Doesn't matter what you put on, anything will do. What are you standing there for? Didn't you hear what I said?
Sir George and Lady Moore. Dudley Tennant, Admiral and Lady Burbank.
I watched you go down, just as I watched her a year ago. Even in the same dress, you couldn't compare.
You knew it. You knew that she wore it, and yet you deliberately suggested I wear it. Why do you hate me? What have I done to you that you should ever hate me so?
You tried to take her place. You let him marry you. I've seen his face, his eyes. Were the same as those first weeks after she died. I used to listen to him, walking up and down, all night long, night after night, thinking of her, suffering torture because he'd lost her.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
You thought you could be Mrs. De Winter, live in her house, walk in her steps, take the things that were hers, but she's too strong for you. You can't fight her. No one ever got the better of her. Never, never. She was beaten in the end, but it wasn't a man, it wasn't a woman. It was the sea.
Oh, stop it, stop it, oh, stop it.
You're overwrought, madam. I've opened a window for you. A little air will do you good. Why don't you go? Why don't you leave Manderley? He doesn't need you. He's got his memories. He doesn't love you. He wants to be alone again with her. You've nothing to stay for. You've nothing to live for, really, have you? Look down there. It's easy, isn't it? Why don't you? Why don't you? Go on. Go on. Don't be afraid.
Can't we start all over again? I don't ask that you should love me. I won't ask impossible things. I'll be your friend, your companion. I'll be happy with that.
You love me very much, don't you? But it's too late, my darling. We've lost our little chance of happiness.
No, Maxim, no.
Yes. It's all over now. The thing's happened. The thing I've dreaded day after day. Night after night.
Maxim, what are you trying to tell me?
Rebecca has won. Her shadow has been between us all the time, keeping us from one another. She knew that this would happen.
What are you saying?
They sent a diver down. He found another boat.
Yes, I know. Frank told me. Rebecca's boat. Oh, it's terrible for you. I'm so sorry.
The diver made another discovery. Broke one of the ports and looked into the cabin. There was a body in there.
She wasn't alone. There was someone sailing with her, and you have to find out who it was. That's it, isn't it, Maxim?
You don't understand. There was no one with her. It's Rebecca's body lying there on the cabin floor.
Oh, no.
The woman that was washed up at Edgecombe. The woman that is now buried in the family crypt. That was not Rebecca. That was the body of some unknown woman. Unclaimed, belonging nowhere. I identified it, but I knew it wasn't Rebecca. It was all a lie. I knew where Rebecca's body was. Lying on that cabin floor on the bottom of the sea.
How did you know, Maxim?
Because I put it there. Will you look into my eyes and tell me that you love me now? See? I was right. It's too late.
No, it's not too late. You're not to say that. I love you more than anything in the world. Oh, please, Maxim, kiss me, please.
No. It's no use. It's too late.
Oh, we can't lose each other now. We must be together always. No secrets, no shadows.
We may only have a few days. A few hours.
Maxim, why didn't you tell me before?
Yeah, you did sometimes, but you never seemed close enough.
How could we be close when I knew you were always thinking of Rebecca? How could I even ask you to love me when I knew you loved Rebecca still?
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Whenever you touched me, I knew you were comparing me with Rebecca. Whenever you looked at me, or spoke to me, or walked with me in the garden, I knew you were thinking, this I did with Rebecca, and this, and this. Oh, it's true, isn't it?
You thought I loved Rebecca? You thought that? I hated her. But I never had a moment's happiness with her. She was incapable of love, or tenderness, or decency.
You didn't love her. You didn't love her.
Do you remember that cliff where you first saw me in Monte Carlo? Well, I went there with Rebecca on our honeymoon. That was when I found out about her. 4 days after we were married. She stood there laughing, her black hair blowing in the wind, and told me all about herself. Everything. Things I'll never tell a living soul. I wanted to kill her. It would have been so easy. You remember the precipice? I frightened you, didn't I? You thought I was mad. Perhaps I was. Perhaps I am mad. It wouldn't make for sanity, would it? Living with the devil. I'll make a bargain with you, she said. You'd look rather foolish trying to divorce me now after 4 days of marriage. So I'll play the part of a devoted wife, mistress of your precious Manderley. I'll make it the most famous showplace in England, if you like. And people will visit us and envy us and say we're the luckiest, happiest couple in the country. What a grand joke it'll be. What a triumph. I should never have accepted her dirty bargain. But I did. I was younger then and tremendously conscious of the family honor. Family honor. But she was alone. She was expecting Favell, but he hadn't come. She was lying on the divan, a large tray of cigarette stubs beside her. She looked ill, queer. Suddenly she got up, started to walk toward me. When I have a child, she said, neither you nor anyone else could ever prove it wasn't yours. You'd like to have an heir, wouldn't you, Max, for your precious Manderley? And she started to laugh. How funny. How supremely, wonderfully funny. I'll be the perfect mother, just as I've been the perfect wife. No one will ever know. It ought to give you the thrill of your life, Max, to watch my son grow bigger day by day, and to know that when you die, Manderley will be his. She was face to face with me. One hand in her pocket, the other holding a cigarette. She was smiling. Well, Max, what are you going to do about it? Aren't you going to kill me? I suppose I went mad for a moment. I must have struck her. She stood staring at me. She looked almost triumphant. Then she started toward me again, smiling. Suddenly she stumbled and fell. When I looked down, ages afterwards it seemed, she was lying on the floor. She'd struck her head on a heavy piece of ship's tackle. I remember wondering why she was still smiling. And I realized she was dead.
Oh, Maxim, I'm worried about what you'll do at the inquest tomorrow.
What do you mean?
You won't lose your temper, will you? Promise me that they won't make you angry.
All right, darling. I promise.
No matter what he asks you won't lose your head.
Don't worry, dear.
They can't do anything at once, can they?
No.
Then we've a little time left to be together.
Yes.
I want to go to the inquest with you.
I'd rather you didn't, darling.
But I can't wait here alone. I promise you I won't be in any trouble to you, and I must be near you so that no matter what happens, we won't be separated for a moment.
All right, dear. I don't mind this whole thing, except for you. I can't forget what it's done to you. I've been thinking of nothing else since it happened. It's gone forever. That funny, young, lost look I loved won't ever come back. I killed that when I told you about Rebecca. It's gone. In a few hours, you've grown so much older.
Maxim.
Who was Rebecca's doctor?
Mr. De Winter always had Dr. McLean from the village.
Now, you heard. I said Rebecca's doctor in London.
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, don't give me that, Danny. You knew everything about Rebecca. You knew she was in love with me, didn't you? Surely you haven't forgotten the good times she and I used to have down at the cottage on the beach.
She had a right to amuse herself, didn't she? Love was a game to her, only a game. It made her laugh, I tell you. She used to sit in her bed and rock with laughter at the lot of you.
Can you think of any reason why Mrs. De Winter should have taken her own life?
No, I refuse to believe it. I knew everything about her, and I won't believe it.
There, you see, it's impossible. She knows that as well as I do. Now, listen to me, Danny. We know that Rebecca went to a doctor in London on the last day of her life. Who was it?
I don't know.
Oh, I understand, Danny. You think we're asking you to reveal secrets of Rebecca's life. You're trying to defend her, but that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to clear her name of the suspicion of suicide.
Mrs. Danvers, it has been suggested that Mrs. De Winter was deliberately murdered.
There you have it in a nutshell, Danny. But there's one more thing you'll want to know. The name of the murderer. It's a lovely name that rolls off the tongue so easily.
George Fortescue Maximilian De Winter.
Was a doctor. Mrs. De Winter sometimes went to him privately. She used to go to him even before she was married.
We don't want reminiscences, Danny. What was his name?
Dr. Baker, 165 Goldhawk Road, Shepherd's Bush.
There you are, Colonel. There's where you'll find your motive. Go and question Dr. Baker. He'll tell you why Rebecca went to him, to confirm the fact that she was going to have a child. A sweet, curly-headed little child.
It isn't true. It isn't true. She would have told me.
She told Max about it. Max, who knew he wasn't the father, so like the gentleman of the old school that he is, he killed her.
I'm afraid we shall have to question this, Dr. Baker.
Here, here. But for safety's sake, I think I'd like to go along, too.
Yes, unfortunately, I suppose you have the right to ask that. I'll see the coroner and have the inquest postponed pending further evidence.
I say, aren't you rather afraid that the prisoner, should we say, might bolt?
You have my word for it that he will not do that.
Toodaloo, Max. Come along, Danny. Let's leave the unhappy couple to spend their last moments together alone.
Frank.
What's the matter? Why did we stop?
What's the time?
Well, this clock's wrong. It must be 3 or 4. Why?
That can't be the dawn breaking over there.
It's in the winter that you see the northern lights, isn't it?
That's not the Northern Lights. That's Manderley.
I thought I saw her.
Where?
Maxie! Thank heaven you come back to me.
Are you all right, darling?
Oh, yes.
Are you all right?
Mrs. Danvers. She's gone mad. She said she'd rather destroy Manderley than see us happy here.